Good morning, welcome all of you. So this morning we are going to have a discussion from thoughts and aphorisms on in God's province there is no evil. So that is the topic of discussion for this glorious morning. We are in the third day of the auspicious new year. So in God's province there is no evil but only good and its preparation. So this is a great aphorism that is from Sri Aurobindo in number 187. In God's evil there is no evil. If there is no evil, then what? But only good and its preparation. Again, Sri Aurobindo quotes beautifully, virtue and vice were made for thy soul's struggle and progress. So two things were needed for two purposes of the soul. Virtue and vice we know. So virtue and vice they were made for the soul's struggle and progress, but for results they belong to God. But for results they belong to God who fulfills himself beyond vice and virtue, because God, he is beyond all vice and virtue. And this is actually it is these two vice, virtue and vice were made for the soul's struggle and progress. It is but for results they belong to God. Definitely we will feel they virtue and vice they belong to God, and of course they are but who fulfills himself beyond virtue and vice. Everything is inferior to him, and he is superior, far, far, far above this virtue and vice. Again, we can find another thing very interestingly. God loves to play the fool in season. Still in the course, God loves to play the fool in season. Man does not. Man does it in the season and out of season. It is only the difference. The difference, real difference between God and man. Here in the course, God's love to play the fool in season. God loves to play the fool in season, but actually a man continuously 24 hours. Man does it in the season and out of season. This is the difference. Again, here in the course beautifully. Live for God in thy neighbor. Beautifully, that live in for God in thy neighbor, God in thyself, God in the country and the country of thy foremen, God in humanity, God in tree and stone and animal, God in the world and outside the world. Then art thou on the straight path to liberation. Very interesting. Everywhere we know Sri Aurobindo line from Savitri we have seen. The world is God fulfilled in outwardness. Everywhere His presence you can find, provided you have got the vision, of course, the psychic vision. That's what Sri Aurobindo characteristically and catastically Sri Aurobindo tries to, categorically Sri Aurobindo tries to emphasize here on live for God in thy neighbor, the people who are staying in your neighborhood. Live for God in thy neighbor, for in thyself, God in thyself, God in thy country and the country of thy foreman, God in humanity, of course, very interesting. God in humanity, God in tree and soul, stone and animal, God in world and outside the world. If you can live for God in everywhere, then actually you will find you are straight on the straight path to liberation. That is what. Again, we can find there are lesser or larger eternities. Very interesting. In Sri Aurobindo focuses upon the bright side of this eternity. We can know this is only the eternity we can find here. There are lesser and larger eternities, for eternity is a term of the soul and can exist in time as well as exceeding it. Eternity we know in the past, it is now in the present, and it will continue in the future also. Still in the course, there are lesser and larger eternities, for eternity is a term of the soul and can exist in time as well as exceeding it. When the scriptures say Sasat Samaya, that eternal time, what you say, the means a long space and the permanence of time, or a hardly measurable aeon. Only God absolute has the absolute eternity. Then you can find long, duration is long, path is long, his spreading is long. The only the God absolute has absolute eternity. Yet, when one goes within, that another term, when one goes within, one sees that all things are secretly eternal. Very interesting. All things are secretly eternal, and we can find there is no end, neither there was any beginning, so everything eternal. So you can find the eternal term in the Sri Aurobindo's quotings, that is a very good, beautiful. All things are secretly eternal, there is no ending, neither there is ever any beginning. So eternal time, a long space, and permanence of time are a hardly measurable action. So God is only God absolute, has the absolute eternity. Again we can go forward. When thou callest another a fool, sometimes we feel, and it is of course we have been habituated with this practice. When thou callest another a fool, as thou must sometimes yet not forget that thou thyself hast been the supreme fool of in humanity. Very interesting, because we know in most of the time we give an example. When you are indicating a finger towards somebody, you must mind you have another four fingers in your hand which are actually directing towards yourself. If you find something, some soil, I mean some mire or something, that ugliness in somebody else, it means that real ugliness, that real mire, and this thing, bad things are not in that object or with this being, but everything, it has been specially persisting in your vision only. So that must be taken care of. Here in the course, when thou callest another a fool, as thou must sometimes yet, don't forget that thou thyself hast been the supreme fool of humanity. Again, still in the course, in the Buddhist view, to have saved an ant from the drowning is a greater work than to be founded an empire. So that is the jibe doya and all that, be pitiful to the animals or insects. There is a truth in this idea, but the truth can be easily exaggerated. Definitely, Jibe Doya, it is better to save a ant while it is drowning rather than founding an empire. So there is a truth in the idea, but really the truth that can easily be exaggerated, that must be known. To exalt one virtue, compassion, exalt one virtue and compassion even unduly, here in the course, unduly above all others, is to cover up one's hand the eyes of the wisdom. To cover up one's hand, cover up with one's hand the eyes of wisdom. God moves always in harmony. That's what the taken care of it is beautifully. God moves always towards the harmony. That is a big term, and it's a great term, of course. God moves always towards a harmony. Again, pity may be reserved. Most of the time we take up the term pity. We talk of it again and again. So we must know pity must be reserved. So long as thy soul makes distinctions for the suffering animals, but humanity deserves it from something nobler. It asks for love, for understanding, for comradeship, for help of the equal and the brother. That is what on pity. I will try to quote it again. We'll try to understand in brief, of course. Pity is maybe a reserved. Pity may be reserved so long as thy soul makes distinctions. For the suffering animals, like this, for the distinctions, for the suffering animals, but humanity, Sri Aurobindo characteristically actually differentiates. But humanity deserves from something nobler. It asks for love, for understanding, for comradeship, for the help of the equal and the brother. This is the difference between the suffering animals and humanity. The contribution of evils, contributions evils to the good of the world, and the harm sometimes done by the virtuous to are distressing to the soul enamored of guru. Good, very nice sentence. Very nice. Our aphorism we can see. Contribution appeal to the good of the world. Contribution of appeal to the good of the world, and the harm sometimes done by virtuous or distressing to the soul enamored of the good. It is sometimes happening. Nevertheless, be not distressed or confounded. Be study, but study rather and calmly understand God's ways of humanity. God's ways with humanity, because two negations they are helping all positivity. We can see contribution of the evil to the good of the world. Then second, harm sometimes done for by the virtuous are distressing to the soul enamored of the good. So these are two things. Nevertheless, be not distressed or confounded. Don't be distressed or confounded, but study rather and calmly understand God's way of humanity. That is a very interesting scene. Again, Sri Aurobindo quotes here. Live within, be not shaken by outward happenings. Most interesting and most promising aphorism from Sri Aurobindo. That is a great thought in it. Live within, be not shaken by outward happenings. Happenings, whatever is happening superficially, outwardly, don't be shaken. Live within. When we are in seas, we live within the external circumstances, external turmoils will never hamper or harm us, in the sea. When you are standing at the beach, seashore, that is actually you can find so many waves, that sounds and all, but if you go deep within, you can find the very true calmness in the sea. So naturally this is the point of to be noted, and of course it has to this has to be observed in life, that we have to live within. Again, we can find another, fling not thy arms abroad everywhere, and the orientation of charity. Fling not thy arms abroad, everywhere, in the ostentation of the charity. Understand and love where thou helpst. Really, where really thou helpst, that you understand and love. Let thy soul grow within thee. With the vision of the soul, with the instruction of the soul, with the idea of the soul, you go, and don't really misplace or don't throw away your help. Again, we can find some couple of definitions beautifully. Men say and think for my country. Men say and think for my country, for humanity, for the world. See, three things Sri Aurobindo quotes. Men say and think for country, for humanity, and for the world. But they really mean for myself seen in my country. Sri Aurobindo, it is a very sarcastical criticism, you can know. Men say and think for my country, for humanity, for the world, but they really mean, from their wordings, from these phrases, you can really understand, for myself seen in my country. Everything is only selfish motive. For myself seen in humanity, for myself imagined, actually imagined to my fancy as the world. So they say for humanity, for world, and for the country, but really the true meaning, the interior meaning, the interior indication is that for myself seen in my country, for myself seen in the humanity, for myself imaged in my to my fancy of the world. There may be an enlargement, that may be an enlargement, but actually not the liberation. That's what we must take care of. It may be an enlargement, but not the liberation. To be at large and to be in a large prison. Again, just imagine the um, decoration of words, arrangement of words you can find. To be at large and to be in a large prison are not one condition for the freedom. That's what we must take care of ourselves. To be at large and to be in a large prison is not the one condition of freedom. Again, we can go, that is another thing. The perfect cosmic vision and cosmic sentiment Two things are there. The perfect cosmic vision and cosmic sentiment is the cure of all error and suffering. Normally, usually, there is nobody left out who is not suffering or actually packed with error or to some extent erroneous. The perfect cosmic vision and cosmic sentiment too are the perfection in cosmic vision, that is cosmic vision, and another perfect sentiment cosmic, and that too it is also a perfect that cure of all error and suffering. But most men succeed only in enlarging the range of their ego, but nothing perfection is there, no cosmicity is there, and the vision and sentiment, it is of course narrow, selfish. Again we can find, when I look back to my past lives, very interesting, I see that I had not failed and suffered in my past life. When I see I fail, I see that I had, if I had not failed or suffered, I would have lost my life's supreme blessings. Yet if I have not suffered or failed, I would have lost my life's supreme blessings. At the time of the suffering and failure, I was vexed with the sense of calamity. With the when the time, two times suffering and failure came, I was vexed with the sense of calamity, calmness, because we can't see anything but one fact under our noses. Therefore, one indulge in all these stipplings and clamors, but actually I have to do, be silent, a foolish hearts, slay the ego, learn to see and feel vastly and universally. That is what the reason. Don't get narrow minded. The real true reason you find, that is something different in the past life. I have not suffered, I have not failed, I had the sense of community, vexed with the sense of community. So many things, so many ways we interpret, but thing is that Sri Aurobindo's sincere suggestion is there like this: be silent, a foolish hearts, slay the ego, learn to see and feel vastly and universally. Sometimes we possess the helping mentality, it comes. We must help the poor because you know that the charity is there, helping there, altruism is there, kindness is there, pittiness is there. Anyway, one thing is very clear, Sri Aurobindo advises us, let thy soul grow within thee, and you must understand and love what really and whom to really you are helping, where really is your help is going, whom you are helping. Again, Sri Aurobindo on help the poor while the poor are help the poor while the poor are with thee, but study also and strive that there may be no poor for thy assistance. That is a good sign. When you will be helping, they will be depending upon you to a larger extent. So you feel help, don't know, no problem. Help poor while the poor are with thee. But the thing is, one thing you must be conscious that you study and strive that there may be no poor for thy assistance, because they must grow up so that they will never depend upon thee for the assistance. You find that the poverty is eradicated. There is no need, they must not come to you. That you must see and feel and read. And finally, we are going to a great thing. Of course, it is a tough time. The old Indian social ideal demanded of the priest voluminary simplicity of life, purity, learning, and gratuitous instructions of the community. And the price, war, government, protection of the weak, and the giving of this life in the battlefield, in the merchant, trade, grain, and the return of the gains to the community of the free giving, of the serf, of labor of the rest, material givings. So many ways we have seen the life, the old Indian social ideal. Old Indian social ideals during the course, it is not concentrating upon here. Old everything demanded the priest voluminary simplicity of life. Priest voluminary simplicity of life. of purity, learning and gratuitous instructions of the community, again of the prince, war, government, protection of the weak, and the giving of his life in the battlefield, of the merchant, trade, gain, and the return of the gains to the community in various ways from different aspects. These ideals were coming, and by the free giving of the serf, labor for the rest and the material livings. This is the old ideology. Their demands were on that way. In atonement for his serfhood, it spared him the tax of self-denial, the tax of blood, the tax of riches. So that was the output they got. They were in service motive and all. They expected high ideals. They were enlargement. But thing is that in reality, in atonement for his service serfhood, it spared him the tax of self-denial, tax of blood, and of course tax of his riches. That was the gain we can find. Anyway, it is a great topic, great discussion. We can find a lot of good aphorisms in the discussion. Let us here find a pause till we are proceeding for the next one. Vande Mataram.